Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I bring you another emotional story about the single mother Lythieuca and the devoted policeman Hung. In the previous episode, during the joyful atmosphere of Tet, Hung unexpectedly returned after many days away on duty. The moment when the three of them, Lythieuca, Hung, and little Tony, strolled together through the spring festival, watching the fireworks and sharing laughter that echoed everywhere, left the audience deeply touched. A small family, simple yet warm, seemed to have found complete happiness. But the story doesn't end there. In today's episode, something truly unexpected will happen, a turning point that could change everything. Will the joy of that Tet celebration last, or are new challenges still waiting for them? Stay tuned for the full episode to uncover the hidden secret and feel every surprising and emotional moment. The holiday drifted by in a rare tranquility, a peace that Hung and Lythieuca had long awaited. From early morning, their little home echoed with familiar sounds, the rhythmic clatter of knife against cutting board in the kitchen, the gentle trickle of water into a clay jar, all blending with the delicate aroma of sweet leaf soup simmering on the fire. On the humble meal tray sat a bowl of vibrant green soup, a plate of golden fried eggs, and a small dish of tangy pickled vegetables. Not a lavish feast, but the taste of family, of togetherness. Tony sat snugly in his little wooden chair, wide eyes watching his parents bustling about. He still couldn't speak clearly, only babbling sweet sounds, his tiny hands tapping on the rim of his bowl as though making music for breakfast. Hung and Lythieuca looked at each other and burst out laughing. Their smiles came not only from the innocence of their child but also from the simple joy of sharing this moment together. After breakfast, Hung rolled up his sleeves and joined Lythieuca in the small garden behind the house. She had cared for it daily, but alone she couldn't manage everything. Weeds overran the soil, vegetable rows were uneven, and the gourd trellis leaned askew. With firm hands, Hung took up the hoe, each strike falling with strength. Grinning, he said, "Let me take care of this. The ground's too hard. If you do it, you'll wear yourself out." Standing beside him, Lythieuca gently wiped a bead of sweat from his brow, replying softly, "I'm used to it. But with you here, everything feels so much lighter." Together they weeded, loosened soil, and propped up bamboo stakes for the trellis. Tony toddled around, his footsteps pattering against the tiles. Sometimes he crouched down, scooping up handfuls of soil with his tiny hands, his face smudged but beaming with delight. Lythieuca laughed, handing him a little plastic bucket. "Here, help Mommy and Daddy water the vegetables." Tony eagerly scooped up spoonfuls of water, splashing them onto the young plants. The water sprayed everywhere, even onto his clothes, but no one minded. The garden rang with laughter, the sound of a small family finding joy in life's simplest things. By noon, as the sun grew harsher, Hung paused his work and rigged up an old bamboo mat to shade the vegetable rows. Lythieuca sat by the veranda, rinsing a basket of freshly picked greens, her hands moving swiftly through the clear water, the trickling sound mingling with birdsong in the old mango tree above. Many times, Hung stopped just to watch her, her tireless figure, her tousled hair swaying gently in the breeze, her eyes still bright with joy despite dirt-stained hands. In that moment, he thought quietly, as long as we are together, even hardship turns into happiness. By late afternoon, after finishing their garden work, the family strolled through the nearby fields. The spring sky glowed gold, a cool breeze swept across the green rice paddies, carrying the earthy scent of the land. Tony chirped like a little bird, running ahead, babbling cheerfully and making his parents laugh. Hung and Lythieuca walked slowly behind, their hands brushing lightly, eyes meeting in a silent warmth, as if carving each fleeting second deep into their hearts. Bathed in the golden light stretching across the endless fields, the three of them seemed to step away from all of life's burdens. No daily worries, no weight of duty, only a small family, a tender love, and a peaceful home to return to. And perhaps, for them, that was the truest happiness life could ever offer. On the afternoon of the second day, as the last rays of sunlight lingered on the red-tiled roof, the familiar sound of chopping echoed from the small kitchen. Hoai was busily preparing dinner when a sudden wave of dizziness struck her. Her head spun, her breath quickened, and her stomach twisted, forcing her to grip the table for balance. Her face paled in an instant, and beads of cold sweat formed on her forehead. Hung, who was slicing vegetables beside her, immediately sensed something was wrong. Alarmed, he dropped the knife onto the cutting board and rushed to her side, wrapping his arms around her shoulders, his voice full of worry. "What's wrong? Are you in pain? Let me take you to the clinic." Hoai shook her head lightly, forcing a faint smile to reassure him. "I'm fine, maybe just a little tired from going to the market this morning. A short rest will do." Hung looked at her, his eyes clouded with worry. He wanted to press further, but seeing her so determined to stay silent, he reluctantly guided her to sit on the wooden chair by the window. Quietly, he took over the cooking, tending the fire, setting the pot, finishing the soup she had left unfinished. Every movement carried both care and unease, his heart restless the whole time. That evening's dinner was quieter than usual. Tony still babbled cheerfully, his tiny hands playing with spilled rice on the table, but Hoai barely touched her food. Hung placed morsels into her bowl, watching her force each bite down, his concern growing heavier with every moment. Night fell. Their little home glowed under the dim yellow light of an oil lamp, while the steady chorus of crickets filled the garden outside. After a day of play, Tony had fallen fast asleep, his innocent face peaceful, his breathing even like the rhythm of the wind. Yet Hoai couldn't close her eyes. She tossed and turned, the memory of the sudden dizziness in the kitchen replaying vividly in her mind. A thought quietly crept in: could she be pregnant? The possibility made her heart tremble. Instinctively, she placed a hand on her belly, closing her eyes to feel every breath of her body. Emotions surged within her, happiness mixed with fear. Happiness, because perhaps within her was a tiny life, the embodiment of her love with Hung. Fear, because her health might not endure, because of the weight of daily burdens, because Tony might feel pushed aside when a new baby came. Beside her, Hung, exhausted after a long day in the garden, had already drifted into sleep. He turned over, unconsciously wrapping his arm around her, his breathing steady and calm. In that warm embrace, Hoai's heart grew even more unsettled. She knew that if she truly was expecting, it would be the greatest joy, but also a daunting challenge for them both. Outside, the crescent moon hung high, casting its soft glow through the window, painting a delicate light across Hoai's thoughtful face. She sighed softly, closing her eyes, letting the tide of tangled thoughts wash over her. In the silence of the spring night, a new door quietly opened in her heart, one leading to a journey no one had foreseen, a journey that would surely change the life of their little family forever. The next morning, as the new sunlight spread across the yard, fresh and cool air filled the garden. Hung held Tony's little hand, showing him each row of tender green vegetables. Their laughter echoed through the small alley. Watching them, Hoai smiled softly, her eyes brimming with happiness, yet deep inside, a quiet unease stirred without end. Taking advantage of the moment when Hung was absorbed in playing with their son, Hoai slipped on a long-sleeved shirt and quietly headed to the market. The village road was lively that morning, buyers and sellers bustling, voices calling, laughter rising in bursts. But to Hoai, it all felt distant and blurred. Each step grew heavy, her heart beating faster than usual, her hands clutching at her shirt. Only one question echoed in her mind: could it really be true? She stopped at a small pharmacy tucked beneath an old almond tree, its wooden door creaking as she pushed it open. The shopkeeper looked up and greeted her with a familiar smile. For a moment, Hoai froze, her lips trembling before she finally whispered, "Can I have a pregnancy test?" The woman behind the counter didn't seem surprised. Calmly, she wrapped the tiny item in a sheet of white paper and placed it gently on the table. Hoai reached out with slightly trembling hands, quickly tucking it deep into her fabric pocket, her eyes darting around nervously, afraid that someone might notice. In that instant, it felt as if she were hiding an enormous secret from the entire world. Back home, her mind remained tangled all day, as though 1,000 threads pulled at once. She went through the motions, washing rice, rinsing vegetables, tidying the yard, but every time her hand brushed the pocket where the little item lay, her heart raced wildly, pounding as if it might burst free. The nervous anticipation clung to her, making each moment stretch unbearably long. Out in the yard, Hung and Tony's laughter still rang bright. Father and son played together, and sometimes Hung lifted the boy high into the air, sending Tony into fits of delighted giggles. The sight unsettled Hoai even more. Her longing for their small family to remain whole and happy grew stronger, but so did her nameless fear. All afternoon, her eyes kept drifting unconsciously toward her pocket. Each time she heard Hung's footsteps approaching from the yard, her chest tightened, afraid he might discover her secret. She couldn't bring herself to tell him, not yet, not until she was sure. And she didn't want to weigh his heart down with worry. As twilight descended, golden light spread across the faraway fields. In the little kitchen, Hoai prepared dinner as usual, but her hands fumbled clumsily, missing their rhythm, prompting Hung to ask in surprise. She only managed a faint smile, dodging his gaze. Night fell. Their home sank into silence, broken only by the steady chorus of crickets outside. Tony slept soundly, his childish face peaceful beneath warm blankets. Hung, exhausted after a long day, soon drifted into steady breathing by her side. But Hoai lay awake, eyes wide open, listening to the quickened beat of her own heart. In the darkness, her hand clutched at her shirt, where that tiny object was hidden. Just one step more, and she would know the truth. Yet with that very step, she feared everything might change. Late at night, the little house was so quiet that even the rustling of mango leaves outside could be heard clearly. Tony slept soundly in his room, his breathing steady, his innocent face calm and peaceful. Hung, too, had fallen into slumber after a long day, his broad shoulders rising and falling gently with each breath. Only Hoai remained awake, unable to close her eyes. Her heart pounded, each beat urging her, reminding her of a secret she could no longer avoid. She carefully turned over, lifted the blanket, and quietly slipped out of the bedroom. Her bare feet touched the cold tiles, each step feeling unbearably heavy. In the small bathroom, the dim yellow light cast down on her pale face, her eyes filled with worry. With trembling hands, she pulled from her pocket the pregnancy test still wrapped in paper. In that moment, the world seemed to fall silent. She drew in a deep breath, then slowly unwrapped it, her fingers shaking so much that the crinkle of paper sounded loud in the stillness. Time crawled by, every second stretching into eternity. Hoai bit her lip, unable to look directly, until the faint lines gradually appeared on the small stick. 2 red lines, clear and undeniable. Her body froze. Her hands holding the test shook violently. Silent tears welled up, slipping down her cheeks. Her heart burst open in overwhelming joy, for inside her was a tiny life, the very embodiment of the love she had long yearned for. Yet at the same time, a heavy weight pressed down on her chest. What should I do? Should I tell Hung right now? Will he be happy, or will it just add more pressure? And Tony, what about him? Will he feel left out, forgotten? Questions collided within her, wave after wave surging in her chest. Hoai sat quietly in the cramped bathroom, clutching the test tightly, her shoulders trembling. Outside, the moonlight spread gently across the roof, bearing witness to the moment she knew with certainty, her life was about to turn to a brand new chapter. During the remaining 3 days of the holiday, Hoai lived in constant inner conflict, as if a restless current surged endlessly within her soul. Every morning, when the rooster's crow echoed across the village, she would see Hung carrying Tony out to the garden. The little boy pointed excitedly at the rows of fresh green vegetables, his bright eyes full of curiosity, while Hung patiently explained, smiling warmly as he spoke. Tony's pure laughter blended with his father's deep, gentle voice, filling the small yard with joy. To Hoai, that ordinary scene felt as precious as a dream, one she could hardly believe she truly possessed. Yet even in those seemingly perfect moments, her lips stayed pressed tight. In her eyes shimmered a powerful emotion, while her chest carried the weight of a secret she could not share. Each time she longed to speak, fear held her back, fear of distracting Hung, of burdening him with yet another responsibility when he was already carrying so much. By day, Hoai worked alongside Hung like any other couple, tending the vegetable beds, heaping soil, fixing the bamboo fence that leaned askew. At noon, the family gathered around a simple meal, sometimes just a bowl of crab soup, a plate of golden pickled eggplant, and a fragrant dish of braised fish. Hung always placed food into his wife's bowl with tender care, while Tony sat beside them, face messy with rice but glowing with happiness. Watching them, Hoai felt her heart warmed, and at the same time, her worries grew heavier. In the afternoons, they strolled hand in hand along the familiar village path. The early spring air was cool, the breeze carrying the scent of young rice fields stretching green into the distance. Tony scampered ahead, babbling joyfully, his laughter ringing across the fields. Hung walked beside her, occasionally slipping his hand into hers. Just that simple touch filled her with comfort and trust, and deepened her hesitation. Should I tell him now? Will he rejoice, or will this become another burden? When night fell, the small house was bathed only in the bright moonlight streaming through the window. Hoai lay quietly beside Hung and Tony, her hand resting lightly on her belly, feeling the faint warmth within, the place where a new life might already be growing. Joy and hope swirled together with vague unease. Each time Hung turned in his sleep and gently pulled the blanket over her, her heart ached with tenderness. In the old wooden cabinet by the corner, the pregnancy test with its 2 lines still lay hidden, a silent witness to the truth that only she knew. Each time she opened the drawer, her eyes lingered on it, her heart swelling with both emotion and a crushing weight. Hoai knew well, sooner or later, she would have to face this truth. But for now, she chose silence. She wanted to wait until Hung finished his current work, to give him just a little more peace before they confronted the great change awaiting them. And so, she buried the secret deep within her heart, a secret both sweet and daunting. The day Hung shouldered his backpack and returned to his unit, the sky was crystal clear, with white clouds drifting lazily overhead, seemingly unaware of the quiet farewell unfolding in the peaceful village lane. The dirt road stretched long, flanked by rows of old bamboo swaying in the spring breeze. Morning sunlight streamed through the leaves, casting golden light upon the figure of a man in his simple uniform. Hoai walked silently beside him, holding Tony in her arms. The little boy, too young to grasp what going away meant, only stared wide-eyed at his father, his tiny hands waving clumsily as if mimicking the grown-ups. His plump cheeks brushed against his mother's shoulder, making her heart ache, because she knew that soon, Tony would hear his father's voice only through hurried phone calls. The cool spring wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it the earthy scent of young rice fields. Above, pink bougainvillea petals fluttered down from a rooftop, swaying gently before settling onto the ground. Under the morning sun, they glimmered like countless letters silently sending off a journey. Hung bent down and pressed a soft kiss onto Tony's forehead. His calloused hand smoothed the boy's soft hair, his eyes overflowing with love he could barely contain. Then he turned to Hoai. In his gaze lay an entire sky of emotion, love and longing, but also the firm resolve of a man accustomed to carrying responsibility. His voice was steady, yet warm. "I'll be going now. Take care of yourself and our son. Whenever I can, I'll come back." Hoai nodded, lips pressed tight to hold back a sob, forcing a faint smile while her eyes burned red. Her hand clutched the edge of her shirt, trembling as if to hold on to this fleeting moment, unwilling to let it slip away too quickly. In her chest, countless words burned to be spoken. She longed to call out, to reveal the secret stirring inside her, that within her body a new life had begun to form, the very embodiment of their love. But in the end, all that surfaced were unshed tears, unable to take shape as words. Hung's footsteps grew fainter, his tall figure disappearing beneath the canopy of bamboo. Only the rustling wind remained, filling the vast emptiness at the lane's end. Hoai stood rooted in place, her eyes following until nothing remained but the empty road stretching into the distance. In her arms, Tony stopped waving, his bright eyes lowering as he nestled into his mother's shoulder, as though he too sensed the strange void left behind. Inside the pocket of the coarse fabric coat Hoai wore, the pregnancy test with its 2 red lines lay hidden, a silent witness to the miracle growing within her. It was at once a source of hope and a heavy secret, binding her heart tightly. She knew she would have to speak the truth one day. But not today, not on this day of bittersweet parting. When Hung's figure finally disappeared down the village path, Hoai still stood at the lane's end. The spring breeze lifted her long hair, and pink bougainvillea petals drifted onto her shoulder, as if laying down a sorrow too delicate to name. Her heart was warmed by the memory of the man she loved, yet weighed down by the secret she still kept hidden. Carrying Tony, she returned to their little home. In the kitchen, the fire still glowed faintly, its warmth lingering, but without Hung's laughter the room suddenly felt strangely silent. Tony nestled into her shoulder, his innocent eyes looking up as if to ask, "Where has Daddy gone?" Hoai held him close, smiling softly though her eyes glistened with tears. That night, after her son had fallen asleep, Hoai sat beside the flickering oil lamp. In the old wooden cabinet lay the pregnancy test, 2 red lines, quiet and undeniable, a secret only she knew. She placed a hand gently on her belly, where perhaps a new life was already growing, a gift fate had entrusted to her. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks, but her lips curved into a smile, for amid the worry and fear, a fragile light of hope was beginning to shine. In that moment, Hoai understood, ahead lay responsibilities, trials, and endless burdens. But she also believed that love, if strong enough, would give her the strength to endure. And one day, when Hung returned, she would share this news with him, the kind of news that could change their lives forever. Outside, the moonlight draped its silver veil across the rooftops, bearing witness to the thoughts of a woman quietly guarding a sweet yet heavy secret. But their story does not end here. Will Hoai find the courage to tell Hung the truth? How will he respond, when duty still weighs heavily on his shoulders? And Tony, the innocent, carefree boy, what will he feel when he learns he is about to have a sibling? Stay tuned for the next episode to witness the surprising and emotional turns ahead. Don't forget to leave a comment and share your thoughts about the story, and join us as we continue to follow the journey of Hoai, Hung, and Tony.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Lý Hoài Ca. Mọi người thân mến, thì ở trong đợt trước mọi người cũng đã biết là Hùng đã được nghỉ phép và anh đã quay trở về và tặng cho Hoài Ca một cái bất ngờ, đó là quay trở về vào ngày lễ, dẫn Hoài Ca và Tony cùng đi tham dự lễ hội nhân ngày Tết. Thì hiện tại là cả ba vẫn đang ở bên nhau, rất hạnh phúc trong những ngày nghỉ của Hùng. Tuy nhiên có một sự việc đã xảy ra là Hoài Ca đang nghi vấn rằng mình đang có thai. Vậy thì liệu chuyện gì sẽ xảy ra tiếp theo và liệu cô sẽ có quyết định như thế nào? Mời mọi người đón xem ở tập sau để có thể biết thêm rõ. Và liệu Hoài Ca có nói với Hùng về chuyện này hay không, hay là sẽ giấu chuyện này, và liệu Hoài Ca sẽ quyết định như thế nào với cái sinh linh bé nhỏ mà là kết tinh tình yêu của hai người. Thì mời mọi người đón xem vào tập sau nha.